Hey there, mathematicians. It's Miss Johnson. Today we are going to be looking at rates. Rates are very similar to what we've been doing already. Rates are ratios that compare units of measure. So some examples that we use all the time are like miles per hour, feet per second, cost per ounce. Like when you go to the grocery store and when you're buying meat or vegetables, a lot of times the cost is charged per pound or per ounce. How much someone gets paid per hour, words per minute someone types, the number of inches in feet, miles per gallon, calories per ounce. One of the things that makes rates different from the other ratios that we learned about is that there is no total. You're just comparing two units of measure, so you can't add them because they're two different units of measure. Well, a unit rate is a rate where one of the values is 1. So like 65 miles per 1 hour, 30 miles per 1 gallon, $1.99 per 1 pound. Okay, and we find a unit rate by dividing. So if we knew that someone went 300 miles in 6 hours, we could say, okay, well, miles over hours, so 300 miles in 6 hours. So we would divide that to figure out how much or how far they would go in 1 hour. Okay, so when we think about it, we want the 6 to become a 1, right? So 6 divided by 6 will give us 1. And so 300 divided by 6 will give us 50. Or you could have just thought of the 300 over 6 as that's 300 divided by 6, which would be the same. So it's 50 miles per hour. Okay, so $12.50 for 5 items. So if we want to figure out how much one item cost, we would say $12.50 divided by 5. Which would be $2.50 per item. Okay, and then the last example we have is 150 words in 3 minutes. So it'd be 150 over 3. So 150 divided by 3 would be 50 again. That was an accident. So 50 words per minute. All right, let's go ahead and look at what these rate problems look like in word problems. So it says if Angela can type 31 words in 2 minutes, how many words can she type in 90 minutes? Okay, so just like you were doing the other proportion problems, you would just look to see what we're comparing. Well, we're comparing words and minutes. So the proportion that we would set up would be words over minutes. So it would be 31 words over 2 minutes. And we want to know about 90 minutes. So we would cross multiply or do 2 times 45 equals 90, whichever you're most comfortable with. I'm just going to answer it one way. So we would say 31 times 90. I'm just going to come to the side and multiply that. That's 2,790. Divide by 2. So x would be 1,395 words. Okay, if we were to put that in our griddable, so it'd be 1,395 And you can put the zeros at the back, but you don't have to. And you could also bubble the plus sign. But you don't have to bubble the plus sign. Just like we don't put a positive in front of the 1,395, we don't have to put the plus there, the positive there. But we can if we want to. Oh, and if your teacher told you to do it, then definitely do it. Some teachers want their kids to put that plus sign there. All right, just a side note on this one. Well, on any of these, you could figure out how much Angela can type in 1 minute. So you could say, okay, in 1 minute, what does Angela type? So we would say 31 divided by 2, and so she's going to type 15.5 words in 1 minute. And then you say, okay, well, I want to know what about 90 minutes. So if in 1 minute she can do 15.5, then in 90 minutes I would have to take that and multiply it times 90, because that's what she can do in 1 minute. Okay, and I'm sure the answer is going to come out to be the same. Okay, so that's just a thought. And if you wanted to do it that way, you absolutely can. Okay, so let's go ahead and read the next question. All right, it says, if a car is traveling 15 miles every 9 minutes, how many miles per hour is it traveling? Okay, so this one is different from number 1 because it tells us that it's traveling 15 miles every 9 minutes, but then it asks us for miles per hour. Okay, so when we do our ratio and we set up our miles per minute and we do 15 to 9 and we want to know how many miles per hour we have to change that hour to what? Yeah, we have to change it to minutes, because if we put a 1 right here, we're figuring out how far it can go in 1 minute, not in 1 hour. So we have to put how many minutes are in an hour, which we know is 60. Okay, I noticed that I can simplify 15 and 9. I am a huge advocate of always simplifying if you can. So I'm going to say 15 divided by 3 is 5, and 9 divided by 3 is 3. The simpler we can make our math, the better. So I'm going to use the factor here of 3 times 20 gives me 60. So my answer is going to be 5 times 20. Because whatever you do to the denominator, you have to do to the numerator. And so 5 times 20 is 100 miles per hour. Okay, I don't suggest anybody drive that fast. It's not safe. Okay, so if we were going to put that in our chart, make sure you put it in the right place value. Right, we have 100, 0, 10, 0, 1s. Make sure you put it in relation to the decimal. You can put the zeros behind if you want, but you do not have to. Okay, so number 3 is similar to 1 and 2 as well, except this time it's not giving us the other time, it's giving us the miles. So how long would it take to travel 1,200 miles in a plane if a plane travels 450 miles in 2 hours? Okay, so this question gets a lot of kids. Because they're not really paying attention to what it's asking. They're just putting numbers somewhere. Okay, a lot of kids want to say that 1,200 miles goes with 2 hours. But does it? What goes with the 2 hours? How far is the plane traveling in 2 hours? Yeah, 450 miles. So the 450 and the 2 have to go together. Okay, So in most word problems that you read, like the rate that they give you is going to come first. But in this one, it doesn't. It gives you the unknown first. This is how long will it take to travel 1,200 miles. So we don't know how long it's going to take to go 1,200 miles. Okay, so just be careful. Read the questions. Set up your word ratio. Okay. All right, so let's cross multiply this one. I don't think simplifying is going to make it much easier, to be honest with you. So 450x equals 2 times 1,200. So I'm going to come over here, multiply that. It's going to give me 2,400. So 450x equals 2,400. We have to divide by 450. Yuck. All right, we're going to estimate, and we're going to say, okay, how many times well, first let's say 450 can't go into 2, it can't go into 24, it can't go into 240, so we're putting 450 into 2,400. Okay, so let's estimate and say how many times does 4 go into 24? 6, 12, 18, goes in 6, but 6 is going to be too big because we've got that 50 there. It's 450, it's not 400. Okay, so let's try 5. So I'm just going to go to the side, and I'm going to say 450 times 5 and see what we get. Okay, so we get that. So that is smaller than 2,400. And we subtract. That'll give us 150. Add a decimal, bring down a 0. So 4 goes into 15. 4, 8, 12, 3 times. So I'm going to do 450 times 3. 1350 is smaller, so that'll work. What was it? 3. We're just going to subtract it. And that's going to give us 150 again. So what does that mean? What's going to happen here? If we add another 0, it's going to be 3 again. So it's going to end up being what? It's going to end up repeating, right? Okay, so our answer is 5.3 repeating percent. Not percent, Ms. Johnson. 5.3 repeating hours. All right, which we really can't put in a griddable because we can't have that repeat. Now we could if it had said, what would it have said? Round to the nearest hundredth, then we could have. Okay. All right, we have a few more questions. All right, number 4 says, on a blueprint for a house, 3 inches represents 7 feet. Okay, so we're comparing 3 inches to 7 feet. The actual length of the family room is 24.5 feet. What is the length on the blueprint? Okay, so we're comparing inches to feet. So the 3 inches goes with the 7 feet, and we do not know the inches, but we do know that it's 24.5 feet. All right, let's go ahead and cross multiply. So 7x is going to equal 3 times 24.5. Don't forget to move your decimal over. So 7x equals 73.5. Divide by 7. Brought down the 3. So 7 goes into 3 0 times. And then 7 goes into 35 5 times. Don't forget to bring up your decimal. So x is going to equal 10.5, what? We figured out x is inches. All right, again, make sure that you are putting everything in this right place value. So the 5 is in the tenths place, then 0 is in the ones, and 1 is in the tens. All right, so now it's time for you to start trying them by yourself. So go ahead and pause the video and try number 5 by yourself. All right, so it's going to be beats per second. So it's 32 beats in 20 seconds. And we want 2 minutes. So 2 minutes is 60 times 2. We have to change it to seconds, right? So it's 120 seconds. Because if we had put a 2 down here for seconds, then we would have been figuring out how much it was for 2 seconds. We don't want 2 seconds, we want 120 seconds. Okay, so 20 times what gives me 120? Well, I know it's going to be 6. So all I have to do is multiply 32 times 6 to get my answer. So in 2 minutes, their heart will beat 192 beats. So 2 is in the ones, 9 is in the tens, 1 is in the hundreds. I bubbled in the 8. Sorry, that had to be, the thingies had to be so small. 92. And again, if you want to put the zeros back there to help you, you can. All right, so number 6, again, pause the video, answer by yourself, and then check your work. So we do windows to hours, so 48 in 2 hours. Oh, he's going to do it for 9 hours. So I'm going to go ahead and simplify 48 and 2. And 48 divided by 2 is 24. And then 1 times 9. So 24 times 9. It's going to give us our answer. 18, 19, 20, 21. Now remember, you didn't have to answer it the way that I answered it as long as you get 216 windows. I wonder if he's working on a skyscraper. It's a lot of windows. Like on American National, maybe? American National has a lot of windows. Okay. So, I was saying that you don't have to work it out just like this. Like if you didn't simplify it, you still got the same answer. You still got 216. That's perfectly fine. All right, number 7. Custodian can clean. Oh, pause the video, work it by yourself, and then check your answer. All right, so we are doing classrooms to minutes. So 2 to 15, and he's going to do 75. I think 15 can go into 75. I think 5 times, but I'm not sure. So I'm just going to cross multiply. So 15x equals 2 times 75. 75 times 2, I believe, is 150. Yep. Oh, that's going to be easy division. So 150 divided by 15 is 10. 10 what? 10 classrooms. Okay, if you haven't filled in your bubble, make sure you fill in your bubble. We're just practicing. All right, number 8, they throw in a table. And so they're basically giving us extra information. Now in all the ones that we've done so far, they've given us just enough information for us to answer. But number 8, they give us extra information by putting it in a table. Okay, it says it shows the relationship between the number of hours worked and the amount of earnings for the hours worked. So we've got hours and how much they earned. So how much money they made for that many hours. It says at this rate, how much will a person earn for 16 hours? Okay, so we get to choose which one we want to use. Do we want to use 4 and 60, 5 and 75, or 9 and 135? Well, I know which ones. I'm using the smallest numbers because I want to make my math as what? Easy as possible. That's right. So hours to money. So 4 hours is $60. And I want to work 16 hours and I want to know how much money that is. And be honest with you, I also chose 4 because I knew it was going to be 16 and I knew that 4 times 4 is what? Yep, 16. So I want to make my math as easy as possible. So I chose a number that I knew I could multiply by to get to 16. So 60 times 4 is $240. On this one also, let me show you this. You could have figured out how much you're going to earn per hour, right? You could have said $60 divided by 4 hours. It's going to give us $15 per what? Per hour. And then said 15 times 16 to get the answer of 240. Is that right? Seems like it would be more, but check it on the calculator real quick. Nope, that's right. All right, so last one. Now, most of you, when you read number 9, you're going to think, oh, we just multiply those. You are correct. You just multiply to get that answer. But I wanted to show you that you could set up a rate. So it says if a banana costs 65 cents a pound, what would you pay for 2 4/10 pounds of bananas? So that 65 cents is going to repeat 2.4 times, right? So we know it's multiply. But if you didn't know, if you were confused, you could set up a ratio, and a proportion. So we know it's 65 cents a pound. So it's money per what? Per pound. So it's 65 cents. Notice I am putting the decimal. And it's 1 pound, right? 65 cents a pound. So we put the 1 at the bottom. And we want to know how much it is for 2.4 pounds. Okay, and when we look at that, right, if we do cross multiply, well, 1x, right, 1 times x equals 65 times 2.4. So x will equal whatever that equals, 0.65 times 2.4. Remember, when you multiply decimals, you do not have to line up the decimal. You just have to line up to the 24, 25, 26, the numbers. And we're going to move 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. So it'll be $1.56. Okay, so that's rates. And remember the difference between rates and ratios? Well, a rate is a ratio. It does compare two things, but the rates compare the units of measure, and they don't have a total. You can't add them up like you can get the other total. Like if it was boys, girls, you could say boys plus girls will give you the total number of people, right? So you can't do that with rates. But everything else is exactly the same. All right. Good job, guys.